Alright guys, well this is a different kind of video because we're on Reddit, the best place for intellectual anime discussions with people who are critical, analytical, and objective. Which, okay, maybe we have a little bit of an exaggeration here, but Reddit is a great place for a lot of things. I think we have a lot of interesting conversations on Reddit. This is very different from other stuff I have done, clearly because I am without a script. I didn't really plan for this. I just one day logged onto Reddit, noticed a very interesting slew of threads that started popping up with very similar type topics. For example, what anime opinion do you see that immediately makes you lose respect for the poster? And I thought this was hilarious. We all have one, I think. What's a praise or criticism that you see that instantly makes you think this guy is full of shit? Well, okay, let's see what people think. So 90% of what's posted on the sub immediately makes this dude lose respect for the poster, assuming that 90% of what's posted are bad or not really the smartest criticism. And you know what? I would have to disagree, just like this dude, but not 100% of the time. I think sometimes there are opinions that are not as well spoken by the poster. They might have valid criticism, but the way they word it and the way the tone comes off on text makes them seem a lot more aggressive and toxic and not as constructive as they may want to be. So although there are a lot of posts that make me lose respect in a certain way, it's only because they seem to come off too aggressive, or they downplay or downshoot other people in the conversation, which isn't healthy or constructive or productive at all. When someone complains about bad animation and points to a screen cap action smear as proof, when you look at animation and you think about anime, it's moving, right? So in a shot that's, let's say, 10 seconds, and you take one frame of that shot and it's not moving, of course it's going to look horrible, and of course it's going to look bad. If you put all those 10 frames together and you see the motion, a lot of the times animators might hide, or maybe our eyes will be tricked into seeing that motion, and it won't look as horrible as that single proofed shot. So in this way, I do think a lot of people who complain about bad animation should not use a single screenshot, but should clip something. Show us bad frame rate, for example. Show us a fully realized animated scene with X amount of shots put together, and it still looks like a PowerPoint presentation. In that case, I'll have to be like, okay, but if you're giving screenshots, anybody could screen cap any moment in an anime and consider that bad animation. Even the best shows probably do some kind of animation saving tricks. For example, not drawing in characters in the background correctly, and you could screen cap that and could say, hey look at this bad animation, but that doesn't prove anything. So yeah, I agree with this person. When you complain about bad animation, you better show us bad animation, movement, because that's what animation is all about. Some of the comments on this thread have reminded me. I really hate it when people idolize new anime and think old anime is outdated, and I hate it when people idolize old, so the vice versa. I genuinely love both old, retro, and the new anime. Their aesthetics are certainly different, but they're both great. I'll just stop it there because I agree. When people say the golden age of anime has passed or anime is dying, I think they're jaded to a certain degree. I do agree with the criticism that we are getting more similar type stuff like the isekai and the mecha genre a while back, and we're getting a lot of the same type of genre, but there's also a lot of gems among those genres, and if they don't want to look for those gems, it's their problem, not mine, because there's a lot of good stuff in the current season, in my opinion. And obviously that kind of criticism applies to old anime. When I first watched Utena, although a lot of modern shows now probably have taken inspiration from that show, there are, I don't know if it exactly holds up. Same thing with shows like Chobits, which when I watched, I wasn't completely impressed by. So although the argument goes both ways, I don't think you can choose one side and completely diminish the other side. The people with nostalgia goggles seem to assume that anime has become all crappy moe. Okay, so yeah, exactly what I said, or isekai or harem show or something else now, while forgetting about the fact that crap was still exactly bad stuff existed everywhere. Let's continue. There was a viral tweet a couple months ago that compared ReZero's Rem negatively with a character from Golden Boy called Aomoi stuff, that P word, and then had the fake meme translation of Miyazaki saying anime is trash, which, yes, he didn't exactly say that, right? He didn't exactly mean it in that way. People saying things like, I miss it when anime characters actually look their age and had correct proportions. Well, that's also an interesting ding with art style, and it's not exactly black and white. They're different aesthetics, but moe unrealism is not inherently worse than older aesthetics. Plus, this viewpoint ignores the actual history of these styles. Okay, so yeah, this conqueror goes on to talk a little bit about that, and basically goes on the point of saying people who just refuse, like, both sides are, or should be more open-sided, more open-minded, right? So yeah, I completely agree with that standpoint. I watch a lot of modern stuff. I keep up with the season, although I don't always make videos about the current season. And I've watched a lot of older stuff. Like recently I watched Nanoha, the old Magical Girl series, and you know what? I liked it. There was a lot of bad stuff in it, but I also really enjoyed it. And I've also seen Madoka, and I also really like Madoka. And putting those two side by side, I like both of those shows for different reasons. People that say you can't judge something if you haven't read the source material, but upon learning you did read the source material say, well, if you hate it so much, why did you keep reading? Because people like you keep telling me to, damn it. You know what? Yeah, people say that you can't judge something if you haven't read the source material. Well, what if we read the source material of a show that we didn't like, and then we also decide we still don't like it? And then they say something like, well, if you hate it so much, why did you keep reading? Because you told me to judge it based on the source material. So I went and read it, and I still didn't like it. Like, it doesn't really have a solid footing as an argument there. It doesn't matter what a show's source material, whether it's LN, VN, or manga, if the show itself isn't that great, then we should be able to critique that product devoid of its source material. And if we don't like the source material, then sure, we can also critique that, but these things should be kept separate. It should be kept like the anime is the anime, the light novel is the light novel, and the manga is the manga, because each medium has different aspects and elements that it can use and, I wouldn't want to say exploit, but take advantage of, right? Anime has motion, music, voice acting, art direction, or like directing in different ways than manga does. And we can't be like, well, the anime is better because it has better music than the manga, because that doesn't really make that much sense. So when I argue for or criticize certain things, I want to stay as close as possible to what I'm consuming in the moment, the show itself, without thinking about adaptation problems. Although I think adaptation problems can be a valid criticism, it shouldn't be the forefront of your argument. You can use it definitely to say maybe the show feels rushed, and you can definitely make the assumption that maybe the adaptation wasn't fully there. But regardless of that, let's say for example, Sing Yesterday for me ended, probably my anime of the season, and its ending wasn't the best. And a lot of people have made the note that the adaptation couldn't have done everything in the one core season it has. But regardless of that, the show was still really good, and I don't really use that adaptation argument as my main point of criticism. So yeah, when people say they watch anime, or anything for that matter, on 1.5 times or double speed, yeah, that's kind of that was an argument, or that was a point of conversation a while ago that I kind of like fizzled away because I don't really see much people talking about it. But I have seen people talking about like this weird thing where they just double time the anime. So a 24 episode show would in essence be shortened to 12 minutes or half the length because they're watching it double time. On YouTube, for videos that might be slower in length, that might make sense for certain videos that are like, okay, why don't you just speed it up and get to the important part. But for anime, when you're watching a storied medium, it doesn't make much sense for me that you would be skipping along. Like, I'm not sure how you can appreciate good directing, shots, voice acting, music, or even the plot if you're speeding through it like this. Like, I'm not sure what the argument there is. Like, if your argument is time, well, if you can't have that 24 or 20 minutes to spend watching the show, then why not wait until you do have time to appreciate the show in its entirety? It's kind of mind-boggling. Blank is overrated or underrated. an interesting kind of blanket statement. It's like saying Kaguya is overrated, and this person would be like, I lose respect for you, or Kaguya is underrated. The whole overrated and underrated, I think I would only agree halfway, because I still feel like saying something is a gem or something is not popular. Like, for example, Starlight, Review Starlight. I think that show is underrated only because not many conversations, or it wasn't in the limelight of the audience, right? Not many people really talked about it, or I don't know if they liked it. I immensely enjoyed that show. And I think when I say something is underrated, I'm simply saying not many people have seen it, and I think more people should give it a shot, right? When I say something like Sing Yesterday for me is overrated, or, well, I don't think that, but just as an example, if I'm saying a show is overrated, I might be saying people have given this show too much conversation and too much of, like, bandwagon, that so many people are sticking to these mainstream shows that everybody's watching that they should give other shows a shot, that there's more in the sea of anime that are maybe specifically to genres that are great and, you know, existing in that bubble. This anime in top 50 on Mal is underrated or a hidden gem, Fred, once in a while. Well, in that case, it's a lot different, because if your top 50 on Mal, you know, has a lot of traction, then yeah, if you're saying something's underrated but it's top 50, it's pretty, you know, not it's not the same conversation there. If I see an argument about an anime and it starts with the word overrated, it's a garbage opinion. Just because something is overrated does not mean it's bad. Also, why does it matter what other people think about the show when judging it on its own? That I agree with. Again, if I ever say underrated, what I should say is, I don't think this show has a lot of people watching it, and I want more people to see it. Like Hoseki no Kyuni, you know, a lot of people have seen it, but back when I made the video, I'm not sure there was much conversation on it, and I thought, yeah, this show is a really cool gem. Not like nobody I knew in real life watched the show because of CG, and I would say it's underrated because nobody gave it a shot. So I'm just gonna stop at this comment, because yes, I think it's valid to criticize idol stuff, but only, again, I clearly think this person is kind of like a joke statement, but there's a lot of people who trash on like idol, but you know, every genre has those kind of mainstream shows, and as long as people who are criticizing it are people who have watched it and are actually giving constructive criticism about it, then sure. This has been a fun little unscripted video that I've been meaning to, you know, make, in terms of changing up some of the videos I've been making, changing up my style, testing this idea out. I'm not sure if it's going to be great. I'm not sure what parts are going to stay, because I am going to cut most of it out. But yeah, thank you for watching if you've stayed this long. I'm kind of in this weird zone of making and trying out new stuff, and I definitely want to continue this hobby, and anybody who's up for the ride, I appreciate you. So yeah,